Chapter 1. The Sound of Silence. Everything was as it should have been that morning. At least, from the outside looking in. The weather was neither cold nor hot. The sky was indecisive, a shade of gray that didn't quite dare to be blue. I remember stopping halfway to school just to look around. People were walking, cars were passing, and life was moving at its own pace. The only thing that felt strange to me was how everyone seemed to move with such certainty. It felt as if I were the only person who didn't know where they were going. My backpack felt heavy on my shoulders. It was filled with thoughts more than books. Some had been there for days. Others had been quietly added in the early hours of the morning. I felt as if I had to carry them all. The idea of letting them go never even crossed my mind. When I stepped through the school gates, the noise crashed over me. Voices overlapped, and words lost their meaning. Someone was laughing, someone was shouting, and others were just struggling to exist. While I was trying to ask someone for the location of my classroom, someone bumped into me from behind. Whether it was intentional or not, I don't know. No one stopped to explain. "Watch where you're going." The sentence hung in the air. I didn't respond. Was it because I didn't want to, or because I couldn't? I'm still not sure. Sometimes, a person doesn't choose silence. Silence chooses them. When I entered the classroom, the scene was familiar. The desks were in their usual places, but the people in them were constantly changing. The same bodies, different voices. The same faces, different masks. It was that few minutes of chaos before class. Moments where no one listens, but everyone speaks. The noise was briefly stifled when the teacher entered. There were words written on the blackboard, but nothing was truly being taught. Not that anyone had the intention of listening anyway. I opened my notebook. I picked up my pen. I pretended to write. In reality, I wasn't. I just needed the pen to keep moving. I remember thinking to myself, do I really need to be here? That wasn't the first time the question had crossed my mind, but it was the first time it felt so clear. There was no answer. Most questions aren't asked to find answers anyway. They are asked to exhaust the soul. During the break, I left the classroom and wandered the hallways. I approached a group, then changed my mind. I walked past another group, and their conversation died down. Was it a coincidence? I don't know. But sometimes, you just feel like an extra, like a background character who accidentally walked onto the wrong stage. I was exhausted when I returned home that day. But it wasn't a physical exhaustion. It was more like the weight of something I had been carrying for a long time had grown slightly heavier. When I went to my room that evening, I dropped my bag in the corner and opened my journal. I wanted to write, but I didn't know what. I simply wrote, "Nothing special happened today." I realized later that those are the most dangerous days, because the days where it seems like nothing happened are the days when something is quietly being hollowed out inside of you. And that day, without realizing it, I had lost something. I never really got used to the walk to school. It's a short 15-minute walk on the map, but every morning, that path feels like it doesn't belong to me. It feels like I'm passing through a different place every day. Streets I don't recognize, shops I don't know, buildings I don't understand. They all stand in the same place, yet I can't grow accustomed to them. Not because I don't know their names, but because they don't belong to my world. I leave the house 30 minutes earlier than necessary to make it to class. I check my watch. I tell myself I mustn't be late. Yet I barely make it. My feet refuse to move. I'm not standing still, but I don't feel like I'm moving forward either. I am somewhere between walking and waiting. The streets stretch out. I feel like I've passed the same buildings twice. Maybe I did. Maybe I just didn't notice. Because my head is so full, the world around me feels empty. Sometimes I count my steps, then I lose track of number. I don't think about where I am, but why I am here. At one point, I speed up. I remember I'll be late. But as I accelerate, something inside me tenses. It's as if the faster I go, the sooner I'll arrive at a destination. And it isn't school. It's something else. A weight I can't quite name. My goal was clear when I set out. Enter the classroom, sit at the desk, get through the lesson. But along the way, that goal dissolves. All that remains is a walking body. The voice inside me goes quiet. I don't want to think. I want to walk without thinking. It doesn't work. Eventually, I see the school. I recognize the building, but it brings no relief. The distance ends, but the feeling doesn't. As I approach the entrance, my internal resistance grows. It wasn't the path that brought me here. It was me dragging myself. I entered just a few minutes before the bell. I check my watch. Right on time again. But something inside me feels late. It feels as if a part of me is still out there, somewhere on the road, still walking. There were certain people in the class. For example, Jack. He's the alpha of those groups, the leader of the pack. No one dares to even lock eyes with him. By the second day of school, he had already fought 2 people. He roams around with 3 others, all scrawnier and weaker than him, threatening everyone with sheer numbers before a fight even starts. He has this attitude like he doesn't care about the lessons, or even school itself. He cares so little that he doesn't even bring a bag. He shows up at least 10 minutes late to every class, and the teachers don't say a word. Maybe they can't. Once, when a teacher didn't want to let him in, he just said, "Fine, you were going to give useless information for the real world anyway," and slammed the door. He slammed it so hard I thought it would break. The sound left a ringing tinnitus in my ears. I was already thinking I should stay away from him when, during one break, they suddenly appeared beside me. Since I don't know how to fight, I felt I didn't stand a chance. The fact that there were 4 of them was intimidating enough. Then, one of them pulled a business card from his pocket. It had the word WAVE on it, a black wave printed on a white card. It was the name of their group. I couldn't take my eyes off it. I'd never seen such a strange introduction. Maybe it wasn't an introduction, but a threat. "Hey, you sleeping? Don't get in our way. You can't surf with us," they warned. It was only the first week. I began to wonder what I could have possibly done to deserve this. The other 3 members of the WAVE group were characteristically similar. You know those classic goblin archetypes? Small, scrawny, obeying whoever is stronger, like the low-level street thugs in a mafia movie rather than the boss. Despite it being the first week, there are already 2 nerds who have started grazing in the classroom. When people walk past them, they make moo sounds. I try not to laugh, but it really is absurdly funny. I don't know if these 2 were friends before school or if they became inseparable in a single day, but they get along perfectly. One is a girl, the other a boy. Some say they're dating, but for nerds like that, their only true loves are lessons and grades. Then there's our social butterfly, a talk show expert, a Charlie Chaplin wannabe who's always trying to make people laugh, though to me, he just seems desperate for attention. He talks to everyone. He's somehow become everyone's best friend. I don't know how he managed to become the most well-known person in school so quickly. Every break, students from other classes come to see him. He talks to girls with total ease. To me, if you're talking to a girl, you should have an interest in her. You should like her. But he talks to every girl without that look in his eye. Or maybe I just don't get it. I can't really make sense of his inner world. I survived the first week, for better or worse. By better, I mean nothing physically bad happened to me. By worse, I mean that was the only positive thing. The class was far from being a class. It was more like a room full of people waiting together. Most of the teachers seemed to be there just to kill time, not to teach. Some were so old it felt like they weren't waiting for retirement, but for the end of life itself. It was a miracle they could still find their way to school. The first week is over. The weekend is here. I thought I might finally get some peace of mind. Assuming, of course, that I'm allowed that at home. Assuming, of course, the people at home agree with me.